So let's get straight to it. Okay, so I'm in Bullhorn now, and what we're going to be looking at first are the enterprise dashboards. So we want to go into menu, and we want to click on My Dashboard. Okay, so these are some, these are some cards that I've added earlier. I want to direct you to the one-stop shop area for all of the dashboard cards, which are here under the Add Card button. Now, this is your library of all of the dashboard cards per entity. I don't have time to go through all of these. There's about 40 cards there. So what I'm going to do is focus on the most commonly used cards. Okay, so I'm going to jump into something called starts and ends, which is a placement card. Now, I'm going to use this one. So let me just close these out. So as you can see, these cards are sticky. So they only get, you can remove them and add them back in. And I'll get to that in a minute. So if you haven't actually used dashboard cards, I'm going to start with some basics first. So this is the starts and ends card. Anywhere that you see a cog icon on any card means you can configure that card. What does that mean? So that means you can go into the card and you can set the criteria up for what data you need to see. So this is all real-time data that you want to see as you're going through your day, as you're adding information into the system, and you're wanting to see that data displayed in the format of a card. Now, this is called starts and ends. So these the first tip I would give you is to name this My Starts and Ends, for example. If you are a manager or a team leader and you want to see your team starts and ends, you would then select your department and your team name there. Or if you were team leader for multiple users, you'd select their names there, and you can select more than one user here. Now I'm just going to do all jobs because I'm in my training environment. I don't have any jobs at the moment assigned to me, so I'll just do all jobs and call it my starts and ends. You have some additional criteria here where you can narrow down the search if required, if there's a particular company you're working with, and also if you only work one placement, one employment track. I'm going to leave it blank so it encapsulates everything, and hit apply here. Okay, so what does this actually show you? This shows you starts in green, so what placements are starting. These are placements that I own for my own jobs. And here you can see they're in green, so I've got day, week, or so if I click on the day, it will highlight the day. So I can highlight today, I have nothing, but if I want to go to Monday, it will highlight you had 2 placements on Monday. What were those placements that started? If I scroll down, I've got 2 here, and it tells me the candidate, the job, and which company it was for. Also, so that's in the past, but I've got 4 starting on the 23rd of this month. So if I click on those, I can see them down here as well. Now, if you had, for example, if you had quite a long list here, if you had, more than 4 and you wanted to see them in a list view, if you select View All, what the system does is it will get those placements and present them to you in the placement list. So that's pretty handy here, and you can carry out some actions from here. For example, let's approve these placements. Okay, going back into my dashboard here. So these are my starts. Now, this is a great place to start off with if you want to, you've got some placements starting, you need to call the candidate, you need to call the client to make sure that the candidate turns up for the job. You need to do those basic tasks around the activity, and you can do that here. So you can, so this is a nice reminder of the placement starting. Ends are if you're working contract jobs, you can see, well, which of my jobs are ending, and you can see that here. Now, mine's a little bit blank at the moment, but for those of you who do work contract jobs, it's an easy way to see if you have candidates ending a job soon. And if you've got a vacancy, or sorry, if you've got a job that is, you need to fill, you can contact this candidate here. So say I've got this candidate here, Maria, and I have a vacancy opening for that same kind of role that she's in, maternity assessment, then I can just call her and say, Maria, you're finishing this role here. Would you like to start a new one in April? Because that's when the new job starts. So that's a nice handy card there that you have, and you can see candidates that will be starting and ending on any particular day. Okay, another thing I'd like to add before I get into viewing another card is you can have multiples of the same card. What does that mean? I'm going to explain in one moment. So let's move on to another popular card, which is used by a majority of our clients. So I'm going to go into jobs and I'm going to jump into jobs without coverage. So jobs without coverage. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is configure this card because at the moment it's showing me everything for everyone. So I'm going to configure this card with the cog icon. And jobs without coverage. Okay, but what type of coverage am I after? So I'm after jobs without any submissions to start off with. So always rename the card so you know what you're looking at, especially when you have multiples of the same card, which as you can see here, we're going to be doing in a moment. So I'm just going to leave it as all jobs. I don't have any jobs assigned to me at the moment. And I'm going to go to the open close drop down and ensure that I'm only reporting on open jobs. I'm not interested in, closed jobs, open jobs. And also ensure that you're selecting the correct status as well. So try to select active statuses such as accepting candidates, offer pending, live, open. If you have those kind of statuses, I'll just select these two because all the others are kind of, we don't need to, obsolete at the moment for this particular card. And again, you can narrow down the results using the other fields here too, if need be. I'm just going to hit apply. Okay, so from this chart right now, it looks like I should have closed my jobs on August the 19th. God knows why I have 6 jobs from August, which have no submissions. Now, this is a good point I'm making because this can show me that, okay, maybe I didn't have any submissions against that job. However, maybe I had CV sends and some interviews and I forgot to close the job. That's all it is. So this is a good card for users to actually do their own housekeeping and tidy up their data. And as a manager or a team leader, you can also see what the consultants are doing and give them coaching and guidance in tidying up and making sure that you have good quality data in the system to see the data in these reports or the dashboard cards. Okay, so for March, I am on top of everything. I have nothing without submission, so that's great. Now, if I want to actually see these 6 jobs, again, anywhere where you see the blue text, that's a hyperlink to a different part of the database. So here, jobs added August 2019 without submissions. I can see the list here, but I actually want to mass close these. So I'm going to go to the actual title there, and it's going to present those 6 jobs to me in a vacancy list, which is great. So I can just go and jump into these and mass close them. And that's jobs without submission. So everything I'm showing you here, all the little tips and tricks around the cog icon, the hyperlink to the list views in the starts and ends, as well as the jobs without coverage card, all these principles you can apply to any card that you select from this section here. Okay, so we've got jobs without submissions. I'm going to go do the same thing, jobs without coverage. So I'm adding the same one. Do the same thing here, configure card. You'll get the kind of idea of what I'm doing next. So jobs without client submission. So some users may wish to just use client submission and interviews. Some may use all 3, and there's no right or wrong way to do that. You can use 2 or 3, whichever you're comfortable with. You can have all 3 cards. Oh, accepting candidates and apply. Okay, so again, it seems like everything, I have no jobs in March without any client submissions. So that's showing me that I'm on top of all of my jobs. Or I just don't have any jobs. Just for, demonstration purposes, you can see in January, I have 3 jobs still open where I need to actually submit some, I need to, put some client CVs on there, send out some clients, candidate CVs to clients, whether that be So in the UK we say CV sends, and in America I know you use the terminology client submissions, which is why I'm just drifting between the two. So client submission, CV send, same thing. Um, and I didn't send any submissions, any client submissions to any of these jobs here. That's not very good. Okay, and last but not least, you know what I'm going to do now? You've kind of got the pattern. Jobs without interviews, which is I think this is an important one because we want to see which of the jobs on the system have no interviews. What's going on with that? Now you can see this is quite small. If I expand it out, you can see all of the data here. Okay, so we've got my starts and ends, jobs without coverage. So make sure you're renaming the cards so you know what data you're seeing there. And then another popular card, which you can actually have greater visibility into the types of jobs or clients that are performing well. So which areas of the business to focus on versus which to maybe deprioritize. You can see this by using something called the success rates card. So the success rates card is based on the fill ratio. So the fill ratio here is telling me that out of all the jobs on my system, on my database, I'm filling them at 43%. So that's the number of starts divided by the number of positions. So that's how it calculates it. And of course, this is based on all of the activity that the consultant is doing, making sure you're going through the steps in order to get the data here. The hit ratio is the number of starts over the number of client submissions, and it says it there. So it's only 28.8% there. So I need to make sure I'm logging my client submissions. So that's the success rates card. Have a play around with that and see what you find. See what data is on your system, and you can see that manifested in these graphs here. One more card, which I'd like to share with you, is called jobs by category, jobs by business sector, or jobs by required skills. So depending on what you capture, now some clients may capture all three. So when you put a job on the system, what are you looking for? Which category is it in? What kind of skills do you need? And also what kind of business sector is that job categorized as? So you can, depending on what you're capturing, you can use any one of these. I'm going to use jobs by required skill. Okay. So jobs by required skills, again, it's similar to the success rates cards, but maybe this is more for management. However, you can still see where are you filling, which skills are popular, which has the highest fill rate. So for example, here we're doing really well with MS Word. So, filling those roles. C++ is looking good. Where are we not doing so well? For example, .NET here, it's only at 9%. So I was talking to a client earlier before this call. They were using this card, and they found that they're not doing so well in the SAP sector. They're not filling those roles. Why not? And they're going to have those internal conversations and find out why, and see if that's something they should focus on, or should they deprioritize that and focus more on what they can do. So that's a really useful card as well, depending on what you capture: jobs by required skills, jobs by category, or jobs by business sector. So there's quite a few cards here. Have a play around with them and see what works for you. I'd like to also talk about corporate edition dashboard cards. So everything I've shown you so far is for enterprise edition. If you are on the corporate edition, I'm just going to have a little dive into the corporate dashboards. So we're going to menu, and we're going to go into dashboard here. Okay, so these are the classic dashboards on the corporate edition. Now they're using Flash here, as you can see. I have been speaking with our product team, and we will be updating these these dashboard cards so that they don't rely on Flash, just so you know, because obviously Flash is being phased out. Okay, so let me talk to you a little bit about the sales activity card here. So the sales activity card here allows you to see how many contacts have been added by the user, how many client submissions have been made, and it's a dashboard. So what happens is this cursor just tends to gradually move up. Let me show you the recruiter dashboard first, actually. So we've got a few here, as you can see in this drop down. This is where you access your dashboard cards. So similar to the enterprise ones, you have a drop down here. Let me jump to the recruiter dashboard first. Okay, so again, similar to the enterprise dashboard cards, once you add a job into Bullhorn, you know, you want to make sure that you're on top of it to ensure that candidates are being added, submitted, resumes are being sent out, interviews are being scheduled, all of the good stuff that you do. Now, as you can see here, this is showing you, well, how many candidate pre-screens have I added? How many client interviews have I conducted? Submissions, offers, client submissions, placements. How many placements have I made this year, to date? So I haven't made any. Now, this is blank, as you can see, so it resets every month. Just so you know, it resets every month. Now, I want to talk to you about assigned owned jobs without coverage. So similar to what I showed you on the enterprise jobs without coverage, this is exactly the same. It's showing you, well, which of your jobs, I own these jobs and they haven't had coverage since when. So I can go in, do my housekeeping, make sure I'm on top of all of the work that I need to do, so that my manager isn't chasing me and telling me what I need to do. So that's all done there. Client submissions without status change in 5 days. So if I've sent out a submission to one of my clients and I haven't heard anything back, this will tell me that these are the candidates that you sent out and you haven't had any response. You know, I can follow those up. As you can see, I am doing a great job because I have nothing there. And likewise with submissions as well. And interviews without status change. So these cards are exactly like the enterprise ones. And placements ending in the next 30 days. A little bit like the starts and ends, but more kind of just placements ending in the next 30 days for the contract roles there. Okay. So this is the recruiting activity, and this is all the activity you're doing, whether or not you own that particular job or not, because this is just monitoring everything you're doing. Now, the sales dashboard on the flip side is more kind of the client engagements that you're doing, you know, client visits, how many new contacts have you added, how many CVs have you sent, client submissions, how many new jobs have you added, company visits and placements. Just do that. So everything is kind of 0 at the moment for me, but what happens is, as you can see, for example, here, company visits, I have 2. Now, if I had a goal set, so for the corporate users here, you can set goals for each of these metrics, and you can set those goals under the user in admin. So you go to admin, so I won't go into it now, but you go menu, you go into the admin folder, and you go into users, and there are about 2 custom fields which you need to complete, and I'll show you how you can do that. I'll direct you to the article which explains how to do that, and there's a template which will help you as well. Okay, so again, for the sales dashboard, it's more kind of, you know, business development here and what's happening as well with your own jobs. So these are jobs for yourselves here. Okay. I hope I haven't gone too fast, but I think I've covered off everything for the enterprise dashboards and the corporate dashboards. So I'm going to pass it over to Sarah because we have some time for questions. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Nimisha. We did get a few questions in, so I'll start with this one. It says, I received a client call right when the webinar started, so I missed the first 10 minutes. Ignore that part. Will you be sending a link to the webinar? Yes, we will. For everyone who missed anything today, we will be sending a link to the webinar in the next 24 hours or so. And then any questions that you ask that either we don't have time to get to or are better suited for speaking about offline, we will email your responses. Our
Perfect. And
next
also,
question is,
sorry,
oh, go
Sarah, can
ahead,
I
Michelle.
sorry, just to add to that as well, we will be publishing the webinar in the Bullhorn Learning Hub. So if you haven't visited the Bullhorn Learning Hub, I go on about it all the time. You want to go to help, and in help, you want to just select visit our Learning Hub. And we have a webinars category there, and you'll find this webinar there in a couple of days' time. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, a couple more questions here. This one says, for the recruiter and sales dashboard, where do we set the placement goals? The card reads actual to goal. How do we set the goal?
Right, good question. So like I mentioned, you can set it in tools and users. There's a little bit of a process. So what we can, let me show you here. So when you are in the Get Help section, so in the Bullhorn community, you want to type in classic dashboards for the corporate users. Oh, don't know what happened there. Okay. Yeah, I've got the, hang on, I've got the, yeah, so there's a template which, can we add the link to, can we take this offline, Sarah? Because I'll get the article link and we can send it out. We can attach it to the video. Is that possible
Absolutely.
to do? Okay, we'll do
Yep.
that then.
We can definitely do
Thank
that. Our next question is, if you don't rename a card, does it change for all users?
That's a very good question. And I should have mentioned this. So when you rename the card, if you don't rename the card, it will just be as is. And is this, okay, so let me start again. So these cards are unique to your own Bullhorn account. So for example, I'm logged in as Jessica. So Jessica's cards will be totally different from mine when I log into my Bullhorn, or from Sarah's when Sarah logs into her Bullhorn. So each individual user needs to set these up. Maybe you could have a session with everyone just to do it together for about 20 minutes. So yeah, if you don't rename the card, that's absolutely fine. The cards are sticky, they'll remain sticky. So if I was to close out of this dashboard and jump back into it, it will still be there. Wrong one, my dashboard. There we go. All those cards that I've set up and configured, they won't just disappear, they're there. I hope that's answered your question.
Awesome. Our next question is, how do we access the sales and recruiter dashboard on Enterprise Edition?
Okay, so if you have Enterprise Edition, you don't really need to be accessing these, but if you do wish to look at these, then you can go into, if you're an administrator, you'll have access to these via tools and go into reporting, and you'll see them in the Administer Reports tab. So you'll see a whole list of the reports there.
Sounds good. Next question is, on the success rate card, can you see multiple users on one graph?
Okay, so on the success rates card, can you see multiple users on the same graph? Okay, so this is to do with, you can't actually see the user activity. It collates all of the activity and puts it into a ratio format. And then the graph here, yeah.
Our next question is, on placement start and ends, what do you do if the scroll for details is not working?
Easy. Oh, right. That's the, okay, contact support if the scroll isn't working. So if you select a week where there are no placements, this is actually a common, yeah, this is a common kind of error. So if you select a week with no placements and you try and scroll, then there's no placement, so it's not going to give you a list. You just want to flip that to all, maybe for the whole month, if that's what you're after. I think that's what you're doing, and then you'll be able to see the scroll here. If that's still not the case, then definitely call technical support. They'll help you out.
Perfect. Thanks, Nimisha. Our next question is, for the sales dashboard, how will the sales team be able to track their jobs if the owner is listed as the recruiter?
So on the sales dashboard here, so can you repeat that question again? Sorry.
Sure. Hold on one second. I just minimized it. Says, For the sales dashboard, how will the sales team be able to track their jobs if the owner is listed as the recruiter?
If the owner is listed as the recruiter. So so the sales dashboard is for the jobs that you own. So if you are the owner for that job, then you'll see that activity presented here in the dashboards.